Usually I have some music that comes with my podcast. So here we go. And welcome to the Just Call It Podcast, episode 11. I'm here with a very special guest, a person that I met through a club called Toastmasters. Very good thing. I encourage a lot of people to do it. It teaches us how to speak and to be able to publicly speak. This individual is a love and spiritual coach. He's a musician. He is a self-made business owner. He is also a soon-to-be author. This is no other than the infamous, most awesome, coolest guy in the world, Ray Sir Freitas. How you doing, sir, today?
I'm pretty well, William. I'm really honored to be on your podcast.
Thank
And this is a dream come true for me. I feel I was made for these moments, is to just have a discussion and talk about life. But
you.
like life, be serious and not serious at times. Life is too short to be serious all the time, but there are times where you got to be serious, correct?
Most definitely. I think so. Let me fix my view right. There you go. This is how are you seeing the view of the podcast right now?
I'm seeing you perfectly fine.
All right. Perfect. Well, man, I think it is very difficult sometimes to be too serious all the time. Sometimes it can kind of weigh you down, right? And I think it can be a little frustrating. And I think you being a love and spiritual coach, I think that's a different tactic than most coaches would take, because you take the spirituality of things.
Mhm.
And I think that is personally to me, that is something that I've gone through a lot of levels of spirituality where I'm pretty sure you can totally school me on. And that is why I brought you on the podcast, to bring knowledge about your business, about who you are, about what you brought to this, what you can bring, and what you can even tell me about myself, or relate that to other individuals, or and how you go through about that. But other than that, I was talking to you earlier, and you tell me that you drink no coffee in the morning because it keeps you up all night, the whole day. How is that possible? How do you just get up? Okay, I get it. You get up and drink some water. That's cool. But no coffee the rest of the day. No, nothing.
How do I do that? I've noted. Well, actually, about 2 years ago, I had a really bad juice addiction. So
Okay.
I would drink more juice than anything else, and I realized that that was one of the things that was wearing my energy down, because there's a lot of sugar in juice. So when I went into the Health Coach Institute to get my life coach certification, so I'm a certified health coach as well. So I don't do just life. I'm a certified health coach as well. And I noticed myself starting to wean myself off of juice and drink more water. And in the program, they told me you want to drink about maybe half your body weight in ounces in water. And I started to do that. And I realized that my energy level increased, my ability to exercise increased, and I was no longer as depressed.
Wow, that's insane, because I drink a huge amounts of juice. I drink absolutely no water, and I am at times feeling very, very depressed. That is insane that you bring that. How did that? Tell me more about that. That's like, to me, that's crazy.
Well, it's something that, you see, water is the most purest element in the world. it is it's just three. It's just one hydrogen and two oxygen, two hydrogen and one oxygen atoms, H2O. And when we think about other things we put into our bodies, especially in America, like processed foods, even the fruits and vegetables we have to be worried about, like the genetically modified fruits and vegetables, that could wear us down too. We also have to think about the meats we're consuming on a day-to-day basis. Where are we? Where exactly are we getting our food or our stuff? Even just our products we put on our skin, our shampoos, all that stuff. And there's a actually good documentary called "The Story of Stuff," and it shows where America gets all its stuff, and Monsanto's that organization's part of it. And you'd be surprised how many things we consume every day, put on our bodies, and we eat that can have long-term health effects. And the, the healthcare industry is they don't care about one person. To us, we're just a statistic. No, doctors are like they deal with death all the time, so they can't really have that empathetic side of them because if they did, they'd go crazy. They absolutely would go crazy because they're dealing with thousands of patients. So they're so immune to death. But for us, we can't rely on a broken healthcare system to take care of ourselves. We have to start doing the things at a certain age. I mean, maybe when you're 20, you can get away with having an unhealthy lifestyle. But once you reach that 30 plateau, you start realizing
Pretty plateau.
uh, I would
We're
say
both
30.
in our early 30s, so that makes us hella fucking.
I would say right when you're 30, you want to start thinking about your family history. You know, what is does my dad have health issues? My dad does. My dad has heart issues. He is very prone to getting cancer. And on my mother's side, it's obese and addiction. So I didn't want to, and I'm an only child. I don't have a very large family, so I didn't want to put myself in a position to where I would in my 50s and 60s have all these health issues. So that's what I did. I started weaning myself off of juice. And if I have a juice, it's like a treat. Think of juice like a candy bar. It has just as much sugar as a Snickers does. Because unless you actually make your own juice from fruit you get, it really is not the best thing for you. And that's part of the health coach training in me. I'm not really doing health coaching, but part of health coaching that goes into the spiritual element is that the reason why people suffer from health is because they're dealing with some emotion or a few emotions that they're dealing with and they use food to comfort it. So as a spiritual coach, I can help you with the spiritual element, but then if you're having a hard time with the physical side, I would refer you to a health coach, which I'm a part of just this huge community of health coaches and life coaches. And I would work with you or whoever I'm working with and the health coach to find the best fit for you. But as a spiritual coach, there's so many other things that spirituality can operate. There's actually three types of spiritual coaches, and I'm kind
Okay.
of all three.
Which one are you?
Well, I'm kind of all three in one. I take a very centered approach to my clients. It's all about connecting with your inner selves. Um, so the three types of spiritual coaches. One is a spiritual coach that helps you reconnect to which is greater than you. So for a lot of us, it's God. A lot of us, it's the universe. Some of us, it could just be what you think is greater than you. Because to an atheist, they think life in itself is greater than any of us. So that's what one spiritual coach does, and just one helps you with develop a purpose in life. I'm struggling for a purpose. And then the third one is helping people with unsolved emotions from the past and just kind of taking where they're at. So one's more for emotions, one's more for having a purpose, and one's more for connection to God. I'm kind of all three in one. And what I do is a much more centered approach, and I help people kind of reconnect to their inner selves, get rid of the distractions, and just reconnect to them inner selves and be in their inner being. Because I've seen people that are agnostic, that did not believe in a God, reconnect to their inner selves. And once you reconnect to your inner selves, whatever is out of your control, you won't worry about anymore. And that's kind of what I do as a spiritual coach is I help people that are frustrated with things that are out of their control. And right now there's a lot of things going on in society that people are frustrated about that are out of our control.
So what do you do when you get an individual? Do you like sit them down in a park? Do you go with them in your home? Do you meet them at a coffee shop? Do you walk them down a certain place? Like
It,
what's
it it's so easy. It's really just an hour session on the phone. If
on
they
the
want to
phone?
do it's on the phone, or if they want to do Zoom, we could do Zoom. But I would prefer to kind of I would prefer to kind of make it a little bit different than regular therapy. I
Mhm.
think what I'm providing is an alternative to marriage counseling or an alternative to therapeutic sessions where are face to face. It's an alternative, and although coaching can be very therapeutic, it's more of where are you at right now. Let's achieve one or two things in the next 3 6 months, and once you achieve those two things, you'll get the confidence to possibly do it on your own, or maybe there's a different type of coach you want that can help you with a different goal. And there's a lot of things people could be frustrated with right now. We have this virus that,
COVID,
of course,
yeah, virus, the virus.
COVID-19 is probably the number one, especially now we have the variant that was found in Alameda. And I think I
Oh
read
wow.
something on Bloomberg News that we could be living like this for the next 7.5 years just because we have to. How do you exactly vaccinate 350 million people once a year for this virus to completely go away? And that's if it even actually completely goes away. To me, I feel it's gonna be like getting the flu shot. Like you get the flu shot to prevent the flu, but some people still get the flu and die from it. Well, COVID's gonna be the same thing. You're gonna get vaccinated, but there's gonna be some people that still die from it. And that's just the kind of harsh reality we're living in. We're gonna have to deal with the next 5 6 7 years. And the thing about a virus is, no, it wasn't created by China. It's all BS. The thing is, viruses are very dormant, and all of a sudden after 1,000 years it could just be alive, and that's exactly what's going to happen in the world right now. I'm an environmental studies major. There are so many viruses that are trapped underneath ice cores and glaciers that we haven't seen nothing yet. I don't want to scare people, but we have to prepare ourselves for the worst, but accept the good times when they come.
It's crazy that how adaptable we were in this situation with COVID. I have to admit, even though it's killed, I think what close to what 1 million people all over the world, more than that.
I think it's more than that, but here in the United States, we're getting close to 450,000
Wow.
just alone. I think in the world, it's in the millions. I'm not sure but I know here in the United States, it's about 450,000 that have died. I've known people personally that have had it. Young people, for young people that are healthy, it's not good. You lose your sense of taste. You For some people, their lungs are about as good as a heavy smoker after getting it. So do you really want your lungs to be like a heavy smoker if you don't smoke? So you might not die from it if you're young, but the long-term effects could be very detrimental. Now, if you're living with someone like I am that has a ton of pre-existing conditions, and I've lived with two people that are like that, you're concerned that, okay, me, I might be okay. I might even be asymptomatic. Okay, but where I go and who I interact with, I'm very careful now because I don't want to kill my dad or my grandmother.
Oh
Y-
no.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is the people that I've talked to that have had COVID. They said if you're older and you have a pre-existing condition, this is not good for you because it's going to make whatever pre-existing condition you have worse, and that's it's gonna attack it. It's a virus that we've never really seen before, or really know too much knowledge about. I think more research comes out, but the research is kind of like, oh, this and that, very wishy-washy. First they say, oh, you can have school. Now they say you can't, then you can have school. And I think people are confused about what you can and can't do. First you can say, oh, you can have outdoor dining, indoor dining. Then they close that down again. We just want to know what we can do, what we can't do. I think we're just human beings. We can adapt, but we can't adapt if we can't know what to do. And I think that's what people are more frustrated about the virus. Sure, we could still go for hikes. I mean, people have been hiking more now than ever because it's the only thing to do. It's something I've always done. I've always loved going into nature.
Oh, I've
And
been hiking a lot.
yeah, I love going to nature. I think nature is a very spiritual place. It's where we're supposed to be. You know, human beings are supposed to live within the land and nature, but as we develop cities, we've gotten away from that. But I'm glad people are starting to get back to it because those are our roots. The Native Americans, I actually value their spirituality a lot better than some of the Western spirituality practices because they were very into the land. They grew up in the land. They live with the land, but they also felt that if we made a decision, how is this going to affect the seventh generation?
Well, yeah, that's how that's one of the best quotes that they've had about even making their crops. They've always thought about that process about reusing the land, even from the seventh generation, exactly like you said.
Yeah, and but here in America, it's like, oh, let's make as much money as we possibly can the next quarter, and we don't care who we pollute, and we don't care who we, you know,
Well, it's the same thing about like what you said with the diseases trapped in the
ice
glaciers
cold.
of
Hmm.
ice cores.
Hmm.
I mean, exactly like you said, whose problem is that going to be?
That's going to
And
be our problem, not someone who's 70 years old that's going to die 10 years from now. It's going to be our problem and our
you
children's
think it's
problem.
going to be our? You think it's going to be our generation?
I think our generation, millennials are going to experience more change than any generation ever. And I'll tell you about that is if you think of the baby boomers, they got so wrapped up in their ways they just refuse to change.
Hmm.
Us, we had to go through our parents with this whole .com movement, but we remember what it was like before then. Before we had these little tiny computer monitors, but there were no cell phones, there were no smartphones, there was no social media. At first, you didn't have that MySpace trend where everybody's chatting online, and we kind of go through that in middle school and some in high school. Then we see the social media prevalence in college, so we're kind of adjusting to all these different times, and we had to see our parents go through the .com crash and how they get laid off or whatever.
I think
And
the last thing that's ever been the most biggest global problem was probably influenza and
influenza, yes, yes,
HIV
HIV.
and some of the biggest things that still mess with us is those type of diseases that we can't control, and then obviously the biggest like you said, the glacial problems,
Yeah, yeah.
and then also with the global warming, the natural disasters. Of course,
Well,
those are
when you
some
go back
really
to like
intense things,
how
but we
much
tend to adapt. I mean,
yeah,
what are
we
we
have
going
to
to do?
adapt, but I
Move
think
on.
millennials in general have had to adapt more than any generation because we've had to go through so many technology changes. We had to go through so many changes with our parents, and then all of a sudden we have the social media. We have to adapt to that. Then we go to college, have to deal with the recession, and now we have to deal with all this climate change stuff because we're in our 30s, late 20s, late 30s,
Mhm.
and if we're going to live into our 80s or 90s, what exactly are we going to see? It's almost like my old uncle Harry, who I never met. He died in the late early 90s, but in Montana, he had lived through where he saw Native Americans packing their bags and moving to a reservation to seeing a man walking on the moon.
Oh,
Think
well,
of
it's
think of
innovation.
think
I
of
mean,
think of
this
how
is the past 100 years. That's been the industrial revolution. It's been
yes.
insane since the 1850s, the
Yeah, the
1800s.
Industrial Revolution, I
I
have
mean,
2
it's
minds.
just been the past 220 years
Just the past 220 years. Yeah.
of just insane, intense change of
Mhm.
of people's lives just from that way they've lived and infecting exactly like you said. How does that really affect really the mentality of human mind? I think that's the whole archetype in our minds have completely changed in 220 years from all the thousands of years how we've managed to grab food and create government, all those things, barter, all those things
I
happen to
think,
be normal for so long, and then
you
all of a
know,
sudden,
I
boom.
you know, I the Industrial Revolution definitely was a turning point in the world because now you have an actual power system to do the things that it took 30 people to do before. And it paved the way for the railroad, it paved the way for auto industry, it paved the way for factory working. And I think for that time, you had to find a source of power. So they used coal, they found oil, but now we're getting to a point so sophisticated that cars are now ran on solar, electricity, hybrids, hydrogen, and that has very minimal environmental impact. But as we've seen with global
Electricity,
warming,
like you said.
as we've seen with like the excess amounts of carbon dioxide, and we've seen the excess amounts of greenhouse gases, the Earth is a greenhouse is a closed system. If it wasn't a closed system, the- we would not live here. The sun would be so hot in the summer, be so cold in the winter, we would not be able to live here. So what Earth does is the sun's rays go in here, and what happens is everything is trapped. So that way, and the Earth regulates its own temperature. But if we keep pumping all these gases that heat the Earth up, of course we're going to have ice sheets that melt. Of course we're going to have
A layer, it's a blanket. And let
layer.
me ask you a question. Let me
Yeah,
ask you this question. Is that why you titled your company The Ray of Life? Because you completely destroyed the bad ozone that's going on in this world? And you're basically, you look like Captain Planet with the almost with this little goatee, green goatee. I
I
had to
do.
make you laugh for a second.
I think
I had to make you
I
laugh
think
for a
ray of
second.
life. I think ray of life. You think of like as a ray of light.
Mm,
What is the source of life on Earth?
it's light, it's sunlight.
Yeah, so you have a ray of sunshine shining down on people's lives.
You're talking to somebody who used to work on a nursery, taking care of plants,
There you go. Well,
man.
and if you understood my question, so the sun is the source of all life, and we will not live without the sun. Plants, animals, human beings. And so when I came up, I was thinking, like, "Oh, what am I
Absolutely no universe exists without a sun, a
a
source of.
sun?" Yeah, or solar system. Yeah, absolutely, or stars, because our sun is a star. So
Well, exactly.
I was
No,
thinking of
absolutely no universe can exist.
what am I gonna go by in the industry? And I'm thinking ray of life would be great, but there's already a couple other ray of lives out there. So
I did a Google search on you, and I happened to check you out.
Mhm.
Want to get a little bit more details about you, and I see that you have a person who equally has the same company name as you, and I felt that we should protest against that guy because
No, well, here's the thing:
his
is
name is not even Ray.
on
His name
social
is not even Ray.
on social media, I consider myself Ray of Life me, so people don't actually get confused with the Ray of Life Foundation or Ray of Life Holistic, whatever it is, or financial services. I think it's something that people already it's already come, but since my name is Ray, I think I'm a little bit more legitimate than them.
Exactly. I think you should put. I think what would top that is that if you put Mister Ray of Life in front of it,
Yeah,
i.e.,
I, there's a lot of things.
love and
Like what I
spiritual
did
coach.
is Ray of Life me on Instagram or Facebook or Google My Business because the me could stand for so many different things. The M could be mental empowerment, it could be musical empowerment, it could be marriage empowerment, which I do work with marriages. So
I think that's really good.
I think
We
the
need
M
that, man.
I think the M could stand for so many different things for people because I'm a well-rounded, talented person. I'm a mental health success story, which I think a lot of people would be interested when they read my book, how I overcame obstacles in my life. And but half the book will be my story, and the other half will be a teaching moment. And I just we're going at a point now in life and in the country where mental health is a huge thing. And this is to go back to the Industrial Revolution. I actually think the Industrial Revolution is what caused more mental health issues in people because we're
It's a complete
evolution.
adjustment to life, man. I
It's
mean,
a
no,
complete adjustment to life. If we get continue to go away to what we really need in life, this is going to lead to more spiritual frustration, which I think can add to anxiety and
nobody has decided to wake up and work at a specific time of day for somebody else and then come home and take care of your own home to pay for that home. It has
right,
always been you take care of your own home with your own resources for
right.
so long. You take care of the family, you're there 100% of the time.
Mhm.
You socialize with the people around you. And just like our probably our parents who are our generation, my parents come from another country and struggled. They made it. They did whatever they could, and they got to where they needed. But they didn't use technology to get there,
No.
and they still struggle to this day to send me an email or a text. So
So it's
what's
up
funny?
to you to transform your family business.
Well, my family, I help them. My dad's actually super good with technology, is a lot better than most people. But I think as family as it is, they are, we all struggle with the generational thing. That's whether we move, they move, the line keeps moving, and boom, our stake just stays right there. That's where our railroad stake starts, right there. Where that's where we're in the timeline.
Yeah, I think when it comes to my parents, they really struggle with technology. My mom, she gets on the computer for 20 minutes and she needs a cigarette right after that because she's so stressed.
I know. Yeah, my mom too,
You know, my
man.
my dad's a little better at technology. My grandmother's actually very hip. She's got a Facebook, she's got an Instagram. I think just
My
just
grandma too,
because,
man.
yeah,
Hardly knows how to use it.
I think she just. But my grandma has a lot of friends, like teacher friends, and that she connects with Facebook. So, Facebook's generally a little bit older of a crowd, but there's still many young users using Facebook, and people in their 30s are still using it for different reasons.
Hmm.
And so, but I think my parents, they just never really adjusted to times, adapted to times. Now you see my dad struggling with COVID, and doctors are saying, "Oh, we got to do this on Zoom." My dad doesn't even have a Zoom, so he has to use one of my computer or my wife's computer, and
Yeah, man,
you
it's
know,
tough. It's like I said, it's a huge adjustment. People are not used to going out to. They're used to going to see their doctor, man. They're used to
yeah,
going in there and get a full frontal look in the doctor's face and saying, "Hey, what's
absolutely.
wrong with me?" Or calling the doctor to come to your home. That was originally the way that
Yeah,
was. But
and how do we actually get a full diagnosis with just on a computer screen? Like, how is that going to really happen? Yes, the doctor can hear the symptoms you're experiencing, but this is to go back into the healthcare industry. Um, we got to do more now to take care of ourselves than any time in history because doctors are so overwhelmed with this COVID crisis, and nurses, and if we just take care of ourselves and really focus on self care, you won't need the doctor as much. You really won't. Um, Of course, it's essential to have health insurance, and I'm actually kind of the person that I think, based on your income, you should have a public option for healthcare. I think, to me, I think
Personally,
60.
feel healthcare should be free, just like other
Not
countries.
for everyone, not for everyone. I think it should be free for people that don't have a job and that doesn't provide health insurance. Kind of like you would if you were to. I think there should be a healthcare option for entrepreneurs. Number one, that are self-employed. So instead of really having them to pay 800 or 1100 a month, I think there
I think
should
there
be.
probably is out there, but
There might be, but I think for people that are struggling, people that are actually really that don't make a lot of money, they need to be taken care of. But people that make 150, 200,000 a year, you can afford your own health insurance. But you would see, if you actually really think about it, 50% of America has $500 to their name and probably doesn't have adequate health insurance where they live. So I think America has the money to take care of the people that have a hard time taking care of themselves. But if you could take care of yourself and you can do the things you can do, then it should not be free. I don't believe in a free across the board. I think it should be certain levels.
I agree with that. I feel of course you shouldn't tax somebody who makes, like you said, you know, $30,000 a year versus $200,000 a year, the same tax, 3% or whatever, for
Yeah,
example.
yeah,
But if you want to say something like, I agree that they should have free healthcare because why should you and me be taxed almost double the amount of times, whether we pay taxes at the end of the year or every year, every time we get paid our check, whether for you is different because you have to be a self-employed person. That means you have to go out and get your own package plan. You
right.
got to get your own situation, which at
Yeah,
one point I worked for a company where I had to get my own health insurance.
yeah. I
Obamacare.
have to keep my own health insurance too, and the thing is, we're not working for an employer that provides health insurance for us. So for right now, to take care of my wife and I'm paying 800 a month for at least decent health insurance for young people. But then again, all of a sudden, I have a kid, I have to increase that to possibly 13 to 1400 because having a baby. So how are we going to generate not only enough expenses for our business to pay health insurance, but our living expenses, food, water, our transportation? Because we don't, and we also have business expenses too, like Zoom and Meetup, a website. If you have one, you have marketing analytics you have to pay for. So there has to be a fine line to who you want to take care of in life and what the nation wants to do. And I don't think it's up to the federal government to actually decide who gets taken care of, who doesn't get taken care of. I think it's up to individual states. I'm a pretty conservative person when it comes to how the federal government should use, but I do think there should be more programs to help people get on their feet. I think there should be more social welfare programs. If you fall out of place, help yourself, do this for a while, get a job. I know someone who for 30 years struggled with addiction, and then he almost committed suicide. And he had this transformational process with him. He ended up getting into the mental health system. And what happened is he went back to school. He had worked, but he went back to school. He was 48 years old. He went back to school. I got to do something in my life finally. And took him a while to go through school because of his mental health issues. And I met him at trigonometry. He was fine. We were doing well. He finally gets a job at Ross and he's living on his own and he's part of the mental health system. But I think everybody has the ability to take care of themselves. But when you when you have a healthcare system that is not available for everyone, how do you actually do that in rural America? This is what the reason why Obamacare failed. It didn't really fail in the cities, but it failed rural America because you have places that have like 12 people, and then and then the nearest hospital is 100 miles away. I mean, do you really, if something happens to you, you break your leg, and the nearest hospital is 100 miles away, like to tax them, I thought was a little bit, you know,
Why don't you just go out there, Ray, and fucking play some of your music?
I could do that. And I think here's the thing. This is my solution. I feel if a life coach became president, you might be able to solve all of America's problems. So here's the thing. What you do is you invest in infrastructure in rural America.
How would you? That's a good question. How would you walk in? Let's say you know, God forbid, Biden Harris, something happens to them. They say, hey, let's call Ray of Life. I just Google searched, we need a Ray of Life, and this guy popped up. Luckily, hopefully that other guy doesn't pop up on top of you, right? You hit that guy. They call you, and they say, hey, Mr. Ray Freitas from Toastmasters.
Well, first of all, I have to get
Hold on. Let me
First
ask you
of
the
all,
question.
first
Let me
of
ask
all,
you the question.
first
Let
of all,
me
I
ask
have
you the
to
question.
go through landmark education. For I'm kidding, no.
Oh, that's dirty. That's dirty. I think you have to go you gotta go to Hooked on Phonics. I think that's what you gotta do before you
Yep,
go to be a president. I think that's
I agree.
that's good. All right. They call you up. They say, hey, Mr. Ray Freitas, we need your love and spiritual coaching all over these 50 states. Can you please help us and save this goddamn country? What would be the first thing you do in 2 minutes? Not
And
in the fucking 30 minutes like you just did about, I don't know, God forbid, about the Industrial Revolution and the ozone layer, which we all know probably has something, but we cannot sue whoever did anything
no, no,
back
no.
then.
I would say in 2 minutes, everybody responds to the message of love. So I would come up with a 2 minute speech to reach people's hearts about the love they have with themselves, of not only of this country, but for other people, and that our political situations should not determine the relationships and friendships we have with people. That's kind of how I would explain it. And then that's going to get people like, huh? Because I think for,
Yeah, because you
and
didn't
it's
finish
not,
your speech in 2 minutes. You literally stopped and then you had to explain. But I get it. I get it. How
I'm
about
not going to do a 2 minute speech here, but that's exactly how I would do it. Our political situation should not determine who we make friends with, who we care about. You could be a Republican, you could be a Democrat, you could be a libertarian, and we all care about this country for different reasons. We all
Mhm.
love this country. We grew up in this country. We love the fact that in America you could start your own business and be your own man, but we also love the fact that you can actually make millions of dollars and make as much money as you possibly can.
That's
But
the
we
great
love,
thing about America, man. You can literally go out there, no one's gonna stop you.
yep.
You can go out there and make something of yourself with a business. Like you're doing yourself, right?
Oh, yeah, and I think for years, I really valued children in the future of our country, and I think one thing that could be bipartisan is investing in education, because how is this country going to survive if people are becoming less and less educated?
So
You know,
what would be your plan of action when you walk in there? Would you all of a sudden tell them, "Hey, man, I'm paying $800 a month on health insurance with me and my wife. We need to fix that because I think that would be your first initiative when you walk in there."
I the thing is, it's a very complicated thing because healthcare is different in each state. In Montana, you have a clinic or you have a hospital, but you might be in an area where that may not be that big of a population. So I think for every 1,000 people, there should be at least one hospital within that mile radius. So you could be in a rural area, but there's going to be at least 1,000 people in that area. I think there should be at least one hospital because you build a hospital that also brings an economical impact. That means people have to work at the hospital. That means you have to start up stores. You have to start up a hospital means a lot. It means a whole lot. So I think if you invest in rural America and not so much focus on urban America, then you might see people actually value healthcare a lot more and actually understand the importance of it. Because there's so many people living in the mountains of Kentucky that probably haven't seen a dentist or a doctor in 30 years.
Wow. Well, that's true.
You
And
know,
that's
so
because of just access, like you say,
it's
accessibility.
having access to it, and there you you look at the area on a map and see how much people live in this one area. You build one hospital that you think can fit there, and you'd be surprised what follows after a hospital. And once you build that hospital, you're gonna have people are gonna be attracted to that town. Oh, it's got a hospital. I could live here. Now we gotta build a store. Now we gotta build some sort of community around the hospital. I think hospital, like water, is just like water now. In the past, you built a civilization around water. You could literally build a community around a hospital
Yeah, I mean, you can build a community around a lot of things. You build a community around a freaking shopping mall.
now.
Just
Well, I mean, yeah,
building when
you
they build
could,
in new shopping malls, they
you
pretty
could.
much
Well,
build
I think
the
you got to
hotels around
start.
it.
You got to start with the essentials, and a shopping mall is not really an essential, but you got to start off with people value. And if you value,
Well,
if
I meant
you
like a grocery store, with all the
yeah,
amenities of like a
and
post office.
not enough money is invested in rural America, which is why you saw a president like Trump won, is because he spoke to the voices of people in rural America. Unfortunately, America first really meant me first. I think there's a lot of things he spoke to, but as you see, every president has their own agenda for themselves.
Hmm.
It's not a Democrat Republican thing. I think personally, politicians are trained to speak to the voices of Americans, but when they get into office, it's the exact opposite. They're doing it to benefit themselves or their friends that put them in there. And Trump was no different than anyone else. He just
Okay,
happened to become someone else.
I got some questions for you, man.
Yeah, what's up?
I got some questions just like from our Toastmasters
Yeah,
that basically they're questions that I imagine you would probably get on a random phone call from somebody looking to request your services
sure.
to help you with their situation and
Yeah.
what you would recommend with them if they really actually, had a session with you and everything. And some of these questions are probably going to be serious and probably pretty funny. So I hope
Let's get with it.
just like those questions that we have, what are they? They're
Table
topic
topic, table
table
topic. Yeah, yeah.
table topics because they're questions that help us on the fly.
Mhm.
All right, here we go. I imagine somebody will call you one day or has
Mhm.
and says, I am having a feeling that I feel like I'm going insane, but everyone says that I'm feeling that I look totally fine. I really need to figure this out.
What exactly are you feeling?
Oh man, I was hoping they. Okay, that's not. I'm feeling totally insane, as if I'm struggling with handling daily life situations.
Name
And
name one daily life situation you cannot handle at this point in your life.
let's say work,
Well, what about your work that you can't handle?
the workload and execution of the projects,
How many projects are given now? How many hours a week are you spending at the office?
about 42 to
42 hours
40,
a week.
42 to 45, somewhere around there.
42 to 45. You realize there are people that work 60 hours a week, right?
I used to be one of those people, yeah.
Yeah. I would say I would continue with the question process, like I said, and say, what is it about your job that is preventing you from having the life you want in all the other four areas of life? Your spirituality, your financial situation, your love life, and your health. What is it about your job that is impacting other areas of your life that you can be focusing on? And then the person would be like, well, I think immediately it's affecting me spiritually. I don't like what I'm doing.
Okay, okay, there you go.
And then I'll be like, okay, well, let's figure out a good plan in the next 3 to 6 months to get you a couple steps further. Now, a lot of coaches will overpromise and underdeliver, and they lose their credibility. In fact, I think 83% of all coaches are going to close their business down during this year for that reason.
Mhm.
I'm the kind of coach that will go to someone and say, let's focus on one or two things you want to work on the 3 month period. Because I have a smaller program for individuals, it's 3 months. And let's just focus on one or two things. You you already have the tools to live as to be happy, to be successful. It's just people need those tools to be sharpened. And I'm just going to be the one that sharpens the knife. And you're going to take that knife and cut your way through life. I'm not here to solve every problem in 3 months. That's just impossible for people. You choose one or two that you think is important. Kind of I just recently helped a gambler stop gambling who'd been gambling continuously for 15 years.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations.
But that was his big problem what he wanted, but in the process of ex- me helping him gamble, I helped him feel so much better about his job situation as well. So you'd be surprised when someone wants to like really focus on one problem. After a while, you help
It's a
them with
domino effect.
it's a domino effect. Yeah, you help them with anything. You really help them with just life, and then after about 10 to 11 weeks into the program, you become almost like friends. You develop this connection with someone who is supportive of you, someone who and I'm a hybrid of one-on-one and group coaching. I do my group coaching on Meetup right now, and I send people there for group coaching. I can send you the link whenever, and then I hold my one-on-one
We can
coaching.
put it on the podcast info so you can, if anybody
Yeah,
wants to.
well, you just go to meetup.com and search Free of Life, Marriage, and Spiritual Empowerment, and you'll see what I do there, and
Mhm.
you can join it. It's that simple. If you want to, you could just it's an app, and that's what I want anyway. I'm not trying to appeal to an audience that wants a website. Website was for the generation before us. We're more into apps. We like going on apps, searching for things. So my business is ran primarily all on apps and groups, and so yeah. I But to go back on your thing, it's really about what is the main problem you're experiencing. That everybody has a list of a few problems. What is that main problem that if you were to actually resolve this problem right now, would it give you the confidence to tackle other problems in your life?
Most definitely, yeah.
So it's whatever the most important problem is. Like people, you could be spiritually frustrated with your career, but the finances you're making is actually okay. You're still providing for your family. You're just so burnt out at the job. So yeah, I would just say let's either look at your options. But right now during COVID, like I helped with the person with the gambling addiction, it's gonna be very difficult to transition from job to job right now, unless you have a lot of experience in a field of industry or an industry that is still doing okay, like marketing or IT, like a very tech-based industry.
Mhm.
I told my client, I said, this technically is still the best job you've ever had. and start developing yourself during this time. I think this COVID world, we have to develop ourselves right now. So that way, when we're in a position to get another job, we have the confidence, we go in and we get hired.
Right. All right. My next question to you is how I have depression and I'm looking at a life coach. Are you a good choice for me?
Yes, I am.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you why. My whole life, I suffered from depression, and I still do. But I do know that when there's a reason for being in the present and not worried about the things that are out of my control, my depression is not as bad. I empathize with you. I understand what depression feels like. But a lot of it is contributed to spiritual frustration. We're frustrated with things. We have a lack of outlets in America. Why is it that Kaiser has closed down 70% of its mental health clinics in the last 3 years? I understand. I know what you're going through. What is the one thing that you're depressed about right now? And then they may say, "Well, I don't know why I'm depressed, but I just am." Well, is there anything in your past growing up that may have caused you to feel this way? Well, I this and that and this and that. I know I grew up in a very difficult childhood situation. Okay, there you go. But see, with coaching, you don't really focus on the past. So in my business, I offer holistic therapeutic services for people to not really discuss their problems, but to open up those past emotions. And the services I provide through a business partner is hypnotherapy and biomedical therapy. And what they do is they kind of release these emotions out of your subconscious so you don't feel as depressed. Kind of like a perception change type thing. And it's worked on me. I believe in those services and you get them at no additional charge. So whatever you pay for my program is no additional charge for these services. So you not only will get 12 one-on-one coaching sessions, but you get additional therapy with it. And it's a very powerful process because I want to focus, why are you depressed now? What is going on in your life right now that's making you depressed? What's making your depression what is making your depression bad right now? Is it because you can't go to a restaurant? And then like, okay, I'm not gonna take this person serious. But if it's because they lost their job well, maybe not their job, but maybe they broke up from a relationship. I know someone who prior to COVID had a pretty decent relationship, and when COVID started, they couldn't date, they couldn't travel anymore, and they broke up from the relationship. And a lot of these things are out of your control. They mutually agreed to end it, but I think COVID in general affected a lot of people, a lot of people's relationships and marriages, and that definitely could frustrate and make someone depressed. But if you actually suffer from real depression, I would work with someone, but I would also suggest them finding an actual therapist as well to actually help with their past demons, because that's not what a coach really does. I mean, we can do a little bit of it. We can go back, but we reference the past. It's everything is in the now. We can't do anything. We can't do anything about what happened to you 10 years ago.
You want them to, you'll just coach them to better them in processing life now,
Yeah,
basically.
pretty much, and having a futuristic goal of 3 to 6 months from now, and that's the goal you want to achieve.
All
I
right. My next question is this then. All right.
mhm.
It is on that. It's on that topic. I am a high goal oriented individual, but I am feeling that I'm starting to lose my focus.
Mm,
I need help in getting back in my routines and my motivations. And I've been feeling this rut for about, let's say, 2 years. Can you help me?
absolutely. What are you feeling stuck with? What caused you to feel stuck? What is going on? What is
Remember,
this
these are
root?
all like hypothetical questions that I'm just trying to like answer back to you. So okay, so what am I feeling stuck with? All right, so uh feeling stuck with um
This see you see, William. Let's stop right there. This is what coaching is.
yeah, there you go for it.
Coaching is not about giving someone advice. If I were to tell you what to do and you go and do it and it doesn't work, I lose all credibility.
Okay, that's a good definition right there.
And a lot of coaches actually do make the mistake of doing that. They'll tell someone what to do. Um, I call it not advice, but more expertise, knowledge, instruction, teaching. So you ask questions and then you instruct on that.
Mhm.
So someone who's been stuck for 2 years, I would ask them at that point in time, we'll do a little bit of the past. Let's just say we go to the past, revisit the past. At that time, what caused you to be stuck? What life changing event happened to you 2 years ago that made you lose focus? Because usually in life, we go through life changing events. And when there's a life changing event, it's because we thought we had life all figured out. And all of a sudden, an event happened, and we got to figure things out all over again. And either you do it slowly, or we have a hard time focusing on. That's what happens. Is why people in coaching is because they had a life changing event and they have to figure things out all over again. That's pretty much who I would suggest to go see a coach. If you're dealing with past emotions from a very difficult childhood, then I would say a therapist or a hypnotherapist would be better suited for that, which is why I provide some of those services. But what life changing event really caused you to feel this way? And then I would coach in that life changing event and let them know that that's never going to happen again, and that you're going to always have life changing events in your life. But after working with me, you're going to be more confident to actually attack those when they happen.
That's awesome, man. I think that's a really good message to send to the world. That what you just said, that working with me, you're gonna be able to attack those things. Is that
Yeah, what I'm going through. I don't want to make it about me, but what I'm going through is my grandmother's got OC has a COPD. She just got her vaccination, but I've had to have these tough conversations with her, like when I die, this is what you do. So my mom's in Oregon; she doesn't live around here, so it's been me taking care of my dad and my grandmother for years. My dad has a lung disease. He's got fatty tissue in his heart. He's his physical health is declining, and really this past year I've come to realize that I might not have any of them in the next 2 3 years.
man? That's so tough. Sorry to
And
hear that,
and as
man.
an only child whose family is older, like my grandmother has siblings, but my I'm not close to my grandfather's family. I'm close to my grandfather, but not his family. My mom has no other siblings. My step uncle, who I really loved, abandoned my grandmother. I haven't seen him in 11 years. Um, I'm talking to another uncle of mine, but hardly ever. But you have to understand, you got to keep living. You have that life in itself should be an inspiration to keep living, and that's what I've learned from my grandmother and my dad, who have almost died. My grandmother almost died before my wedding. I didn't even know if I was going to get have a wedding because I was so concerned my grandmother wasn't going to make her infection.
Mhm.
And with my dad, I was 24 coming out of college, and here he is, pretty much dead, but brought back to life in a hospital.
Mm.
So I've seen what health issues can cause in people, which is why I is healthcare really a privilege or should it be a human right? Why is it everywhere? Why is everywhere in the world it's available for people, but in this country, since you have to profit off of people on medicine, that's exactly what America is. It's
That's the one thing, man. They nobody. It's it's obvious that you can make a nonprofit and make money,
Mhm.
right? Like companies that do that that make pay their employees a lot of money and provide a lot of services that are for people who are low income around here in the Bay Area, like La
I think
Clinica.
Kaiser is kind of a
Yeah.
hybrid nonprofit for profit. They kind of do both. They put money back into their hospital, but they also try to grow as well.
Right, but if you're talking about a nonprofit that proclaims they're a nonprofit hospital, as in La Clínica de la Raza in Oakland, they offer services for people at really low prices or at free
Yeah.
for some individuals, and they get a huge, stipend or whatever from the government. But what happens is not a they the government does offer tons of contracts and stuff like
Mhm.
that out there for individuals to be able to furnish and be able to take over, but I don't think the government really offers a lot of incentive in letting people understand how they can actually make that a business for themselves to make money. As
Mhm.
in, let's say if they said, hey, we want to now start paying small business owners such as yourself, Ray, who's a life coach, to help individuals, and we'll pay you every person that has this type of insurance provided by the government. When they come see you, they pull this little ticket out, they pay you, and we pay you a check every month, providing that you show us the bill that you provided
Well,
that.
I actually think for business owners, because our business expenses actually come back sometimes in a tax write-off. Like if we can write off business expenses, why can't business owners write off their health insurance? Like what?
That's a
Why?
very good point.
It's a
Why?
very good
Why
why
not?
why can't they? Like, this is essential. This is essential to our life and our business. Like, why can't we just even if they don't pay all of it, just a portion of it would be excellent. Maybe maybe they pay 30 to 40% of it, or something. That would just go a whole long way.
I know that the company I work for pays well over $250,000 a year just on workers comp
Well,
alone.
I think
I mean, not just workers comp, but
the question is why is healthcare so expensive in America only? And I think that's the
because you
question.
start off like a businessman. You start off with nothing,
Yeah,
and
you do.
you need to charge for all this stuff.
Yeah,
And
you
when
do.
these people come knock on your door, they're desperate. They're desperate. They need their services. So if you're struggling with cancer,
Yeah.
you hope that you either have insurance, or if you don't, you're gonna go through whatever it takes to get there.
Yeah, and the thing is you look at other countries that have a socialized healthcare system.
It's because their people pay more for that. They
They
pay
do.
more for
Yeah,
that, and it's worth it. Why don't they do that here in the United States? Maybe because they know if we were able to pay, because we would pay a higher tax for that. We probably pay a higher tax in most states, most countries that exist
hmm
in this whole world.
hmm
We would pay huge tax if they added an extra 1% on everybody's tax on whatever from everyone's check, and then yearly it
thing about Americans do not like paying taxes. That's
they
just
don't, so they'll vote for it not to happen.
yeah, and they'll vote for not to happen. So if you don't want to pay, you're gonna have to pay things yourself, which means which makes room for private enterprise. Which if you do private enterprise, you're having people pay for those services, and that's why I think a system like Obamacare could work because you still had the private insurance, but it made it more affordable. Like it didn't actually go into a public option. It just made private insurance more affordable for people who maybe didn't have insurance. But here's where they went wrong is they fined people for who couldn't afford it. I know it went back into the program, but they fined people. It was like, we're punishing you for not having this. But part of me is more like, okay, there half the people on the road are driving without car insurance. It's the
Yeah.
law to have car insurance. It is the law to have house insurance. So, and what was going on before?
It's the law to have. Look, there's countries that exist where if you don't have insurance, there's a way to handle this shit. That if I hit you, there's a way to handle this stuff.
Yes.
That I
Well,
get out of my car, we
you
go
think
drive to
about
the
it. You
bank,
think
and
about
I
it. You
give
go,
you some
there,
money.
there are countries in the Middle East that if you steal something, you're getting your hand chopped off.
That too. There's so many levels of extremities, like extremes. Excuse me, extremes to certain countries of how when it comes to punishment and how you even go through life and what you cannot do. But let's just take the United States in general, and I don't even want to talk about comparing them to the other
No, no,
states.
you can't. You can't. But
You
I
can't.
think
We're one of the best, but one of the things is that you'll never have a perfect world, neither will you have a ever perfect society.
mm-mm.
But one of the things that has proven to work really well is that having, well, not actually, there's so many pros and cons that somebody can come in here and completely school me and say, hey, there isn't a pro to having free healthcare. There isn't a pro to that. Or there's somebody who can come to me and say, no, there is a complete pro to having free healthcare. There's can be so many different sides, but my
I don't
thing is from
I,
my
I don't
experience.
see it happening in this country all across the board because when you've done your whole life, you become a PhD and you want to work for biotech and you want to make $200,000 a year doing what you're doing, and all the research that has to be done between medicine and vaccines. Healthcare is going to be expensive because you have to find a way to pay everybody what they put in, not only in their education but in the time they're actually working in this field. So I don't see it
My
happen. But
my thing
that,
is,
that's that one argument. But the other argument goes, well, Canada doesn't pay anything. Well, but in Canada, I think the most you could really make in a job, like I think you only make only like 50,000, 60,000 a year. So they kind of, but the cost of living is so much less. I mean, if you go to Sweden, you know,
it's
it,
a
it,
smaller country. It's way better.
smaller
It's way
country,
easier
less people,
to
less
manage.
problems. I mean,
Mhm.
America is ran as federal government is here to protect us in case of a war, which is why we're called the United States of America. Is because in the past, when people were to attack our land, all the states would come together and we would unite and we would protect our land. But are we really united as people? Well, no. Like we're divided on a lot of different issues. But I think when you actually sit down and talk to people and really get to know them, you'll understand that you agree on most things about the human element and what should
Mhm.
happen.
What I'm saying is that in America we make a lot of loopholes in business law versus there's so many realms of law where it comes to law realms
Oh,
of industry. Oh,
mhm. You're good.
you
You're
see
good.
me? Okay.
Yeah.
There's so many realms of law. So there's health law, and
Hmm.
there's business law.
Yep.
You can work in a company that provides no healthcare insurance because they have less than 50 employees. You don't have
Yes.
to you don't have to
50 and over,
provide.
I think. Yeah, I think 50 and over, you have to provide something. But 50, 49, you don't.
Yeah. I work for a company that's like that, and I'm involved some of the things that I know about that. So you don't have to provide insurance. One of the things is that to me on that effort is that means I'm also one of those individuals who also doesn't get insurance. So when I was going through what you were talking about, going through Obamacare at the time, it was very difficult because,
Mm.
like you said, they go towards people who can get a job that can barely pay for something like that. Whereas somebody who is making X amount of dollars, I had to pay for a single individual almost $350 every month.
Mhm.
You add all that up, that's a ton of money. You're talking about
Yeah,
almost
I had a problem with Obamacare too because when I came out of college and I got my job, I was still covered under my dad's insurance, who was what, until
till
26,
26. Hmm.
which was great because I had hospital insurance all through college, which was great, fantastic. It was one of the most highlights of it is to keep people on their insurance because face it, are you really going to get a job at 22, 23 that has health
Yeah.
insurance? Probably not. I got a job as a substitute teacher when I was 24. So for about a year and a half, I was covered. When I was 26, they said I didn't make enough money to qualify for Obamacare. There was a ceiling and a flooring. The flooring was about 40,000, and the ceiling was about 80. So it was a ceiling of between 40 and 80 who can qualify for it. They said I qualified for Medi-Cal. I'm like, I'm not doing Medi-Cal. I actually want an actual good provider. So I said, why am I not going on a private plan? So I made enough money where I can afford my private plan and my needs are taken care of. But that's not everybody, and that's why I think healthcare is a difficult subject here because people want access to it. People want if they had access to it, I think they would use it. And I think what a lot of people do that don't have it, their idea of going to healthcare is going to the emergency room. They get but everybody's premiums go up because they have to find a way to pay for it, and that was a problem. So Obamacare says, "Okay, we're gonna force you to get it. If you don't get it, we're gonna fine you." And that didn't work either because there were people like in your situation, my situation, um, and rural America especially, who just don't have access to this, and it wasn't that it just didn't work. I do think that there was some highlights to it, like protecting people with pre-existing conditions and upping the age to 26, and there were some highlights to it, but it did fail in a lot of areas. And I mean, in California, I'm thinking, hey, this is great, people are working, but someone in Arizona might say this is terrible. I don't like this, and
Well, yeah,
so
I mean, I think even for somebody who had multiple families and had to pay a certain amount on each head of the family, I
yeah,
mean, that added up too. I mean, I knew a family that had to pay up to $1,000 or
yeah,
plus
it was
every month.
But
It's a lot.
I think Obama gets the blame for it. It wasn't really his fault. This was something that Democrats have been working on for years, even in the Clinton administration. He just signed it, and then unfortunately,
I don't think it was refined because it wasn't hey, let's do this type of process, but at the same time the businesses just said, okay, fine, we'll just put our money that we need to charge on it,
yeah,
we'll
yeah,
take care of it.
yeah,
This is
definitely.
you guys want this type of plan to umbrella the whole company, umbrella the whole in the United States, or whoever's available to it. This is the price, this is the spectrum. If they qualify, this is the graph, and
Mhm,
boom, okay, this person at this rank makes X amount of dollars, and it was high.
yeah,
And that is what it is. But you, on your side of things,
mhm,
doing your business,
mhm.
you structure your things in a way to be easy for your patients or clients. How do you refer to them, and like how do you kind of work with them on this stuff?
Well, it depends if they're married or not. If they're married, it's going to be focused on.
I'm not, you don't have to delve into the pricing. I'm just saying that,
Oh, no, no,
you
no
know,
pricing.
all this stuff. Do you actually handle people with insurance? You take that,
No,
or
I don't handle people with insurance. I would leave that up to someone else. But if 'cause I'm just a solopreneur right now, but
mhm,
I would say, and my wife does a little work for me. But
that's great.
the thing is I don't ever really. We'll see where life takes me. It could be that this is a company that my company because the idea of my company is when I was a tutor, I saw how tutoring companies do business.
Mhm.
And they would find the family that needs help, they give them a package, and they find the tutor. I want to model my coaching business after tutoring companies, where you find people that need coaching and you hire a coach to coach them. Where I'm like the CEO hiring people, but to work with me is going to be a certain price, but to work with them will be a different price because I have to pay that coach who maybe wants to coach but doesn't actually want to run the business.
Doesn't have a platform.
You have a
Doesn't have something. He has a plat. He needs more of a platform to help him launch and get work.
Yeah, pretty much, and that's kind of what I wanted to do. It's like yes, as a tutor, you could do your own tutoring, or you work for a tutoring company.
Mhm.
That's kind of what it
Well, it's
is.
hard to market your own self because you're just one person. You look at that and say, "Oh, okay, this one person's graduated from X amount of school. I don't like that." But if they come see you, you have a Swiss Army knife of tutors, or let's say
Yep.
life
Yep.
coaches.
And that's what it is that the being an individual tutor, you can make more money than working with a tutoring company, but someone's more than likely to go to a tutoring company that's nationwide that has the reputation of hiring good tutors, or even the smaller private companies that are starting up that have a good reputation, whereas it's just one individual person. But for me, as a coach, I saw that and I said, you know what? Why not me model my business after them? Why not take this into like an actual coaching empire? By the time I'm 60 years old, it's nationwide where you just
Well,
have
you'll eventually have some loyal employees that people who just want to just be contracted with you because you take care of them. You pay them a higher rate that they've probably ever been paid before, and you can mark up your price as well a little bit and make it
yeah, yeah,
whatever.
definitely. Definitely, because there's a lot of coaches out there that really want to help people, but don't understand the business side of things. They can help a lot of people, but they're not business oriented. I see it all the time in my coaching groups on Facebook. Like, oh, I wish I could help people, but I'm not getting anything. It's because there's the coaching element in it, and then there's the business side of it. And if you have a low budget, there are ways to market yourself for free. Networking events explaining what you do. I think LinkedIn is like the biggest networking event that ever lived. You can explain what you do. You can talk to them, making connections, direct referrals. There's so many ways to grow a business for free, to where you get the budget and then you start putting ads out and whatever. So
Yeah.
there's no and I've seen, even if you're starting a business, I'm not really what you would call business coach, but I would coach someone on why they want to start the business and give them confidence to start it.
Mhm.
Because there's a spiritual element to why someone wants to start a business, usually to help someone else, to provide a service to someone else, or they just believe in this in their vision. And that's where I would coach. I would say, okay,
Well, they
let's
need that extra oomph.
give
They
you that
need that
extra
extra
oomph.
layer
I'm
of
not going to tell you how to
assurance.
set up your business. That's what a business coach would do. But I would just give you the extra oomph. Okay, let's
Focus on your motivations and
motivate. And that's actually what I did to someone else a couple months ago. Is she was like, "Well, I have this." She actually became my business partner, and she was a little uncertain of her business. And I said, what you're doing is a very noble, good thing. You're helping people release their past emotions. They're feeling better. And I was also the one that encouraged her to actually become a coach, because her, like me, we both have a lot of knowledge
Mhm.
about things, and we make money off our knowledge. And it just gave her the confidence to actually do her business. So that's where the spiritual coaching comes with me. Is like there's reasons why you feel the way you feel. There are reasons why we do things, and a lot of it is just helping people connect with their inner selves and within the universe. But we've been talking about spiritual coaching. I want to discuss my love coaching a little bit more. And I wanted to give couples an alternative to marriage counseling, because with marriage counseling, you would sit both of them in a room, and the counselor would ask them a question or ask them you deal with their issues, and sometimes nothing gets resolved, and you come home feeling more frustrated. Or like with the client I'm working with now, marriage counseling didn't work with him because the minute the person sides with someone else, the other person wants to find another marriage counselor.
That's true.
So I give an alternative of one-on-one and group coaching to where I help each person spiritually develop themselves. And when each person spiritually develops in the marriage develops. Because it's not just, I think people put too much focus on the marriage as a whole when they stop focusing on themselves. They're so worried about the marriage, but they themselves are the ones that need help. So I have a service I help couples. I have a service where I help individuals who maybe whose partner doesn't want coaching, but this person wants coaching, and we just determine what the best case scenario is for them. Then of course I have a service, like you said, people that are frustrated with things that are out of their control, but they have a few goals they want to do in life, but they're so frustrated with life that they just have a hard time getting to the next step.
Exactly. Well, man, I think you have uh you have a lot in on your mind to accomplish, man. I think you from the time from Toastmasters, I think you were just really starting to really begin some of your beginning of your business and everything that you're doing.
Well, you got to start somewhere. And, there are so many people out there saying, oh, I help coaches get 4 to 5 clients a month and they do this system. There is no short trickle down theory way to start a business. You have to start from the bottom up and you have to put time into it and you have to get people interested in it. And you can have all these automatic tools on LinkedIn or Facebook ads, but if you haven't developed a reputation or some sort of presence, it's not going to work.
Need some
Um,
clientele, some kind of traction.
well, even just having a presence, like in my industry, we have to be masters of our word and our message. And people, if because you're Catholic and I'm Christian, like, do you think people came to Jesus for help before he had a following, or was it after he started to develop a following? It was after he started to develop a following in his ministry that he started helping so many people in the world. And that's what a coach has to do is they have to develop a following, a master of their message, and people are naturally going to come.
Yeah. Well, a lot of those things are also tradition too. I think that's a lot of the religious stuff is built in on a lot of family traditions and what has been passed
Yes,
down has been
yes,
taught.
yes. But in culture, yes, family traditions. But I do think when it comes to actual spiritual leaders we follow, for them before like, because biblically, Jesus didn't start his ministry until after he was baptized by John the Baptist. That's when the Bible pretty much starts.
Mm.
And then he found out who he was, and he went on this mission, and he developed a following, and people just came to him for just anything. The same thing with like a Siddharth Gautama, or a Hare Christian. Like they developed a following with their message, and then people just came or were naturally drawn to them. And I think that's why coaches struggle to get clients is because they're here, but their message is not. It's not as much out there, and I think you know they also struggle to get clients because they have a hard time explaining what they do. They have a hard time explaining who they are. They have a hard time putting themselves out there. They want to help people, but they don't want the whole idea of public speaking. And my goal is once things sort of open up a little bit more. I don't care if people wear a mask or not, if they wear a mask or whatever. But if they do, um, as public speaker, what I'll be is I'm going to use music as a way to motivate others, as a sense of therapy, because you can do all this motivational speaking, but then after 15 minutes of that, I play a song on the guitar for 2, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and then I go back to motivational speaking. And I think it's a great way of giving people therapy, and that's the goal when I'm on stage is to bring my guitar and maybe in the beginning of the thing I tell a joke or something, whatever, lighten up the crowd. But
Would you would you think about doing your first own like theater or one man show for health, mental health and spiritual
oh, I
coaching?
mean, yeah, I would absolutely love one man show for mental health. But with mental health, you got to be careful because
Or
I would
for
help.
whatever you think is your expertise.
Yeah, I
Oh,
mean, yeah, whoever my expertise is, and I would say I know a lot about mental health because I'm a mental health success story. So the book I'm going to be writing will help people who are suffering from mental health challenges. So that's what that takes
Book
care of.
titled.
Ray of Life, me, a mental health success story.
Everybody needs to hear that. Go out there when this book is finally out there. We'll hopefully have a renew of this podcast. But
Absolutely. And what the
Ray
book
of
is,
Life,
me, a
me,
mental health success story.
the Ray of Life, me, a mental health success story.
Yes,
Damn,
my
that's one
goal
hell
is
of
to
a
finish
title.
it within about 2 years. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving myself 2 years to finish it, and I want what I want from people is to understand that even the most successful people have gone through childhood traumatic experiences. Life is the same for almost everyone. Like we all go through things. After a while, it's how we adapt to it. It's how we approach life in general.
Mm-hmm.
You could keep saying to yourself, like, you could keep asking all the psychiatrists and listening to them, oh, be careful on him. Oh, do this, do that. Oh, don't work him too much. Oh, I think he should be careful. And then after a while, it gets into your subconscious that you can't do a lot, that you can't do things because you're limited. And what I got tired of is like, you know what? Screw it. I'm doing this. I'm going all out because I know I can handle it. I know I can do this. And I know that I will be okay.
That's the kind of mental state a lot of people need in this world, is having that drive, man, because
Well,
it's a struggle.
stay tuned because you're gonna see Ray of Life Marriage and Spiritual Empowerment on YouTube real soon, and that's if you want to speak on stage now, YouTube is the biggest stage of them all, and
Well, this is gonna be on YouTube, man. Everyone's gonna see Captain Planet, Ray of Life, shining down and erasing the ozone of its bad mental state, and all the marriages and everybody is gonna be spiritually fixed with your ray of life, Ray.
Ray of Ray of Life can get
I just
on.
related your whole life, your environmental studies degree, your pursuit of doing your business, all in one huge metaphorical thing that you
Well, that
have to
that's
plan
that's
saving the
what's
world.
happening is whatever, and even my education part of being a substitute teacher is you learn so much about children. When you work
I
with
think that makes
children,
it
you learn
awesome.
so much about life, and because that children don't hold grudges, they
Have
just
you
don't.
ever? What age would be the children that you would teach?
All right, now I'm teaching adults, but I think that the I would teach elementary school to middle school and high school, but if I go back to subbing in August, they just have to suck it up and go back to school and just make things clean. Because there's no
Did
way you.
they? Did
They,
ever one time a student just not like you and just hit you in the face?
actually, he was 9 years old and he slapped me in the face.
Holy shit! Holy shit! Did you just look there stunned and just like what the
It
fuck?
wasn't really hard. It wasn't a hard slap. It was more of a pimp slap. But
A pimp slap?
yep,
So
it was
this
like
kid just said, what did he call? He said, "Fuck you, Mr. Freitas." Bam!
it wasn't that bad. It was more like it was a 9 year old, so it didn't hurt. But I'm like, I want to be a teacher, and I started thinking, do I want to do this for the rest of my life? Because in my heart, I wanted to teach, and um, I guess
Some
when I
people
went through
don't
this,
want to be taught, man. Unfortunately, some people don't want to be taught at that given moment.
well, yeah, I mean, he actually ended up becoming a better student later on because I followed him through middle school. But there
Did
was
you
one,
slap him back ever? Did you ever
um,
see him and said, "Remember me"?
maybe when he grows up, he's about 21 years old. I did. No, I'm kidding.
You're
No,
waiting the day he turns 18, and
the way he
you're gonna
turns
see
18,
him. Remember me, Mr. Fritas.
oh god,
Remember that name?
no, no, no. One thing I've
Hey
learned in
man,
life,
karma's a bee, man. Karma's a bee.
that well, oh God, yes. Whatever energy you put out there is what energy you're gonna come back. It's gonna come back to get you, and that's karmic's not so much different than the Christian belief about things you put out in the universe. Like, I mean, I think there's one scripture in the Bible that says, I think Jesus says, those who blasphemize the Son of Man will be forgiven, but those who blasphemize the Holy Spirit will not be forgiven. There's like one unforgivable sin. So I think karma is more Eastern, but punishment of sin is more Western. And the thing is they kind of are almost the same thing. Karma is kind of a punishment of a past life
You're right.
or split yourself. You you just, if you're a positive person, that law of attraction will come back. You'll generate positive people in your life, and the negative people will go away because they're going to see a light shining on you, and they're not going to be able to handle it. I had my best man at my wedding end his friendship last May because I got into life coaching. I started transforming, getting in the Toastmasters. His dad just died, and he's not married, and it just he ended the friendship, and I said, well,
Well, I mean,
so
I
people will be your friend for a certain amount of time, but as you rise up to success, they're gonna have a hard time with it.
yeah, I mean, that's one thing is some people, if you guys have done so many things together and routine is routine, and then finally one person decides to change one routine, and sometimes they could be completely surprised that you are the person who did that. But
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's more like he just had a hard time. Like, he had his own personal demons, and I think he knew whatever I was gonna do, I was gonna be successful at it. And he's actually the one that said, "Dude, you are a Tony Robbins like type guy, right? You need to do the life coaching." So he knew, but I don't think he ever thought I was gonna take it serious.
you're more like Sloane Robbins. That's what you are.
Well, Tony, I would say, I'm not a Tony Robbins. I'm not going to compare myself to someone like that. He's got years and years and years of just helping tons of people. But see, now I think there's going to be he's kind of like the whole patriarch and godfather of life coaching, and he even studied like Dale Carnegie and how public speaking and stuff. But
Yeah, he comes
now
from the Fighting Irish. He's a
But
fucking
now
well
I think
decorated guy.
you're gonna see a bunch of different Tony Robbins like people. I don't think there's gonna be just one. I think it's gonna be 30, 40, 50 of them. And you're starting to see that now. Like, people see the benefit of coaching, and people are seeing
Well,
the benefit.
look at this podcast. It's it's broadcasted on YouTube. I'm pretty much just promote whatever I want to say,
Yeah,
just like you do.
I think
It's very
technology.
very easy.
I mean, you think about how Tony Robbins had to run his business. He had to cold call people. He had to
Get it harder,
send
man.
mail out. Like, he couldn't just. I mean, he had to work 16, 18-hour days. I mean, we won't have to work that hard. We will still
You
have to
needed
put
to be his
eight,
size in
ten
order to
hours a
do.
day in our stuff. But
You got to grow to his size, Ray, in order to get to his level, man. You have to be 6 foot something, huge, deep voice. You got to start wearing normal
yep,
hats
yep.
forward. You got to start having your own style, your own trademark style. You should get like your
You
own
gotta have
Ray
the
of Life logo and get like tracksuits and just dress like a coach and act like when you walk in or
yeah.
talk to those
Well,
people.
right, right. When that happens, when stages come back up, I will deal with it then. But right now, it's about groups and getting people on social media groups, because that's where people are coming, and
Yeah, but if you
that's
get a nice Ray of Life logo hat, I'll even help
oh,
you
logo
design
hat. Yeah, yeah, hat.
like an actual like designer logo Ray of Life
I
hat.
actually have a logo already. What I want to do is put a Ray of Life hat, Ray of Life me hat, but with what my logo is, a sun with two swans. The swans mate for life.
Yes, they have the
So, and
dance.
then
They
I
have the
have a
special
sun
dance.
right there, and The sun is the ray of life, and marriage in itself is life.
Do you know there's only
Everything.
3 animals that have sex for pleasure? In this whole world.
You know what?
Sad to know.
The thing is,
And it's not a swan,
I
my
think it's
friend.
pleasure. I think it's pleasurable for any animal, which is why they continue to do it. But it's
No, it's
for God.
not.
What's it
And
not
so
pleasurable?
no, it's not because only 3 animals have sex for pleasure. The other ones, some animals get completely penetrated,
That
and
is
they're
true. They're right. Cats, dogs,
walruses.
walruses.
Yeah,
Uh, I think the reason why the human element loves it is because you just become so close to that individual.
sounded like I totally stole it from a Joe Rogan podcast right now.
Yeah, but I think well, no, I think the reason why people are so love sex could be exploited in two different ways for human beings. Is one, they can dominate someone like in rape or just the whole game mentality, manipulating a woman or manipulating a man to do it. But if you look at the other approach of what sex is like, it's a bonding moment between two people that really love each other. It's pleasurable, and your souls kind of become one. And that's what it was meant to do. And then if you wanted to try it for a family, that's how you do it. But I think I think pop culture and I think America makes it to where they flip it upside down to what it shouldn't be. And women are exploited, their bodies are exploited, like all these videos. And sex really should be a beautiful thing between two people that love each other. It's not something, you know, but yeah, if you don't love someone and you do it out of a domination type thing, it could be very detrimental to someone emotionally. And I think some people think they have to hurry up and get it out of the way. Personally, I feel the longer you wait to do it, the better it's going to be with that individual because you've developed that affectionate connection with someone, and
I mean, do you wait like months or something like that, or
well, it depends on
or what do you mean?
it depends on someone's values. If they're religious and they really want to do the religious thing, you wait till after you're married. But if they're not,
Oh, okay, that's what you meant. Okay, yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
if they're not religious, I think a good target.
No, I thought you meant that you like to wait into periods of making love, say for instance with your
No,
wife.
no, no,
Like
no, no, no,
you're
no.
like, yes, I like to wait a
But
really long time in between.
here's the thing about romance is it's a switch. It gets turned on and off. But affection should never get turned on and off. Affection is that deep connection you have with someone. The reason why romance gets switched off is for some reason you've lost this connection with someone. Or you
Ray of life spilling knowledge, man.
and
Okay.
here's the thing about marriage is are you are you really frustrated with your marriage right now, or are you frustrated with yourself and your marriage is just the victim? Because we're
Those are
frustrated
two big
with,
questions to pose to a couple, yeah.
yeah, I mean, are you frustrated with the marriage, or are you frustrated with just yourself and that partner's frustrated with things, and you just are clashing on so many things? And that's why I gave couples an alternative marriage counseling, because then we can really, and this is the big program, this program's a year, because you cannot resolve, each person gets 3 months of love coaching and 3 months of spiritual coaching. And it takes a year for the whole process. And that's the big one. But the other services, you could just be someone who just wants to just hurry up and just figure things out. Okay, give me a shot. Let's figure some things out. If you're spiritually frustrated because of a life changing event, let's figure this out. Let's figure out a good plan. Let's work together. I'm not here to give anyone solicited advice. I'm here to work with that person to make them a better version of themselves. Once you become a better version of yourself, The relationships you have around you will improve. The relationships you have with your parents will improve. The relationship you have with your spouse will improve. And the relationship you have with yourself will improve. Because the minute we start loving ourselves, the love you have for humanity, the love you have for your country, the love you have for your spouse, the love you have for everything else before it will just amplify. So, if someone's struggling, the first 3, 4 months, I'm really focusing on making sure that they love themselves. If they do love themselves, then we just focus on the goal that they want. But if you're struggling to find love within yourself, that's what we focus on first. That's the most important thing in moving on with someone's life, with your life, is just to love yourself.
Ray, my last question to you is, what is the one thing that you think you can help the world or people that you work with that most people in this world don't know?
That's a tough question. You know, I'm not going to ramble on, but I will say this is I would respond to the question is what is it that you don't know and that I don't know that we can come up in our time together working together that we can both know 3 to 6 months from now? Because as a coach, you're going to learn a lot from me, but I'm also going to learn a lot from you. And if there's things that we don't know, we can't be the kind of person that just says, rambles on, and tries to think of something we know.
You just made me feel like you are just like the Riddler, and you basically posed my question with two different questions within its one self. So it almost makes like this conundrum of mathematical negatives, and you're basically the Riddler right now in 3 to 6 months. That's what you do. That's like that's what you basically
But
are. Is that the Riddler for 3 to 6 months working with me? I hope you don't riddle me this into
I'm not. That's not. That's not what it is. The Riddler is a jokester and will give you riddles. But the idea
that you can't solve.
that you can't solve. There's a lot of things in life that we just can't solve. We can't understand. We can't.
That's a
But
good
you
point.
focus on the things that you can solve. You focus on the things that you can do. Don't focus on what you can't do. You focus on what we can do. It's kind of like in a health coach. Focus on what you can have, not what you can't have.
Mhm.
If some people is just they're claustrophobic, they can't get an MRI and they're gonna have a freak out. Well, then don't get an MRI. What do you want me to say? There's some people that just have a fear of getting in the water. Well, don't get in the water. Like, I mean, don't put yourself in a situation that is gonna make yourself more vulnerable in life. Always, but it's different when it comes to success. You always move out of your comfort zone. Always move out of your comfort zone. But that's different. When you move out of your comfort zone, if it doesn't work, nothing hurts you. That's the thing. What they understand, what they tell you about failure is you take a risk that you have everything to gain but nothing to lose.
Ray, Mr. Ray Freitas, the quiet, stoic man in my Toastmaster club, who is also what you're the VP of membership again?
Oh, I'm actually public relations now, so I'm in charge
Damn.
of the club.
VP of public relations, love and spiritual coach, self-made businessman. He is a soon to be author of Ray of Life, Me, the success story,
Mental health success story
mental health success story, certified health coach,
and life
in
coach.
and life coach, environmental studies graduate from where again?
Cal Cities Bay.
Cal State East motherfucking Bay, same place my wife graduated, and it's a success story of mental health. How can you not want to get a life lesson with this gentleman right here. Why not? So many pluses in your freaking resume, man.
If you
And
want it,
so many, you literally amaze me with how much you talked about what you knew of life coach and relating that to the ozone layer, relating that to your Captain Planet magic powers that you do with your mental thing. You're almost like Vision from WandaVision. You're gonna get a diamond put on your forehead. Yes. All right.
I actually like rubies and emeralds, but it's whatever.
You're gonna use a jade. You're gonna get a jade.
How about the Aquarius? There we go. Here,
There you go.
Aquarius.
I'll get a piece of coal. Just like you seen that
But after millions of years, it becomes a diamond. So
exactly when I die in the
it's
ground.
growth. So at the very end, when I'm 60 years old, there'll be a diamond.
Finally. What is your predictions for the Super Bowl? I know you're not a football guy, but
I am a football guy, actually.
oh yeah, you like the Raiders. I forgot.
No, I like the 49ers. The only variant football team left, but
yes, let's go. I'm a Niner fan myself. Been for many years.
yeah.
I'm from
I
that OC.
personally, I'm so tired of Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. But I actually, I if I were to make a prediction, it'd be Kansas City.
I have $100 Kansas City wins, so thank God that your ozone layer powers are going to help me.
Well, here's the thing: is will they fix it to where Tom Brady goes out in retirement and wins?
Oh, again? Oh, man.
That would be
Deflate me.
terrible. But I actually don't think Tampa Bay has the defense to slow down Patrick Mahomes,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think Tom Brady has enough to keep up with Patrick Mahomes up for the thing. If he does,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna shit myself. I really am. If he does, if he somehow wins this, he really is the greatest of all time.
Well, I really hope tomorrow that when I'm drinking some more micheladas by Budweiser, not a sponsor, freaking delicious with clamato. Also, I had a nice regular coffee
Oh,
cup
and
from McDonald's, not a sponsor.
here's my. Bottle that I
Of Arrowhead water, not a sponsor. Really delicious water from Professor X himself, Ray.
Well, it says 100%
Ozone
fountain
Freitas.
spring water, but I'm not sure how accurate that information is. Because as an
Yeah.
environmental studies major, we learned that a lot of this is false advertisement.
It's osmosis water, basically.
All it is reverse osmosis. They take the same water, you flush your toilet down, and make it drinking water.
It's very delicious.
Yeah,
and you are having a nice lukewarm bottle of it. It looks very good, Ray. Ray, is there any last call of action you need to give to this world?
Call to action is to love yourself and focus on 1 to 2 things you want to achieve in the next 3 to 6 months and achieve them. If you're having a hard time with that, look at Ray of Life, Marriage Spiritual Empowerment on Facebook, Meetup, Google my business on Google. You'll find my information there. I will have a YouTube out pretty soon. And just go out and love people, man. Love is we don't need to be in this situation. If we just love people, which means you listen to them, listen to what they have to say. Don't worry about what's going on in Washington. Don't worry about what's going on in your newsfeed on Facebook or Instagram. Just love people, man. What is there really to argue about? What really is there to argue about? You can continue to be in this argumentative phase. You're never going to get anything done yourself. You're never going to have the life you want. And I've made friends with the most conservative people, but also the most liberal people. I'm the middleman. I'm always the middleman because I have a conservative side to myself, but I have a liberal side to myself as well. And
Ray,
I think most people need to hear something like that. You need to go out and love and listen, empathize, That is my call to action, is to love.
Ray, Captain America, Captain Planet, ozone saving Freitas, the one and only life spiritual coach, musician, soon to be author, self made business owner, certified health coach, environmental studies major, and all around toastmaster of VP of public relations, the mighty Ray Freitas. Thank you so much for coming on my podcast. I extremely appreciate you coming on, man, and dropping your knowledge. I learned something. I have to admit that I completely underestimated you because at times you would make some speeches at Toastmasters, and I would feel that you would also admit at the end of it that you totally did it on the fly. And some of your speeches, man, made me laugh. And I'm not gonna lie, man. I said, this guy, does he really know life coaching? Dude, you seriously changed me about what you know. I think you are a very knowledgeable dude, and I really hope that you bring a lot of fucking success to that book and you continue to do with your business. I've always liked that you were very determined, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people in our Toastmasters probably don't really know about your business. And I know that you're promoting it, but I think that when they really get to know what you're actually doing and the knowledge that you actually have, and you have a platform like this, like you're saying, a more of a long form situation, you will be able to get your point across. And I think I have a lot of goals in mind, man. And I really hope that you strive to do so and help so many people with mental health. I myself have a semicolon tattooed on the back for suicide awareness. I also struggle with my health issues, as a lot of my listeners have heard in my podcast. And that's life, man. And I think that's the way you have summed it up in a lot of the things you talked about today.
And mental health comes out in all areas of our life, our marriages, our relationships, our individual. It prevents us from moving on because we hang on to the stigma that we can't do things, but you can. You can actually do things. And what's helped me most is the power of prayer. Really, coaches can really, they can promise you transformation, but they may have just resolved one or two things. The real miracle is the person who had an alcoholic addiction for 20 years. They devoted their life to God, and they have a child, and they're sober for 10 years. That is the real miracle in the world that happens.
You know, that's so funny because a lot of people look at that and they seriously they know. I think to me, before we end this podcast, but I think to me, what you're saying there is that a lot of people know the fact is that yes, you look at somebody who has gone through a tons of shit, changed it completely.
Mhm.
And I look at that from a standpoint and say, that's awesome, fantastic. But really, do I want to reach that level of commitment to change? And the answer to that is, if you know that's not what you want to do, that's what you have to do in order to get to where you really are challenge yourself to be. So I look at that and say, even though I know that person who reformed themselves and made all this change, is that necessary? And that's actually to change, to really truly change, you have to give that level of commitment that's just so intense and devoted that
And,
some
that, and
people
that's
feel it's
why
crazy.
and that's why my marriage is a 1 year program, because if you actually are married to someone, this is a commitment for life you signed up for better or for worse. If you can't commit to 1 year for me, then you're not taking your marriage seriously. And so don't even bother. If you're not going to take your marriage seriously, I'm going to be able to determine within just an hour of talking to the both of you if this is going to work or not. I want to know, are you taking this seriously? And then I think when it comes to just your individual life, the people that I have worked and have transformed were ready to work on themselves. If you're not ready to work on yourself, don't bother on even contacting a life coach, because a life coach is going to say, hey, let's get ready with this. If you're not ready, wait until you are ready.
Wow. A lot of people need to hear that, man. That a lot of people are begging to change. They post about it. They want to change, and they're not. It's because they're not ready, and
They're
that's
not ready. They're not ready. So if you're ready for it, come find out Ray of Life, Marriage and Spiritual Empowerment. I have a list of 3 services for you that determine where you're at. It's it's about all about being a better version of you at the end of the day, and not you're not going to change who you are. You're just going to improve on who you are.
Mr. Ray Freitas. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, man. I really
Thank you,
appreciate you.
William. Thank you, William. And we should definitely get a bite to eat one of these days.
Definitely, man. I hope you have a good weekend, man. And thank you so much for coming on. I hope to
Thank you.
talk to you some other time.
Bye.
Take care.